Welcome to Front-End Web Development subject. In this video, we will learn about conditional rendering in React. Topic 4 in Unit 3. You might have noticed this many times in many web applications. For an instance, let me take Telescope. When you log in with your rule number and the password, the activities which are turned on for you may be different from the activities turned on for your friend. Depending upon the user, what are the activities has to be rendered can be decided by using conditional rendering. Conditional rendering in React involves different displaying different components or elements based on certain conditions. This allows developers to dynamically change what has to be rendered to the user based on different factors. These factors can be like state, props, or other conditions. In the process of achieving this, dynamic content rendering is a main motto for having conditional rendering. And this can be controlled by using states or props. This can be achieved using three different patterns like if else, ternary operator, and logical AND operator. Let's dive into coding. Let me create another component called conditional rendering. To keep it short, let me call that as in cr.js. Write a function within cr which should return something. Do not forget to export it. Export defaults here. Now, let me call upon this. Call this functionality here. Call that component cr. Yes. Now, let me name this as in conditional rendering. Now, you see that how to pass the data to the CR now. We already learned about the props. Depending upon the prop, let me assume that prop is a number over here. If the number is 1, that means a true, then render something called welcome. If it is in 0, which is equal to the false, then render login first, right? So let me pass that prop. Let me call that as a number. Usually that should be a login status. We'll try to look into that in detail in the upcoming sessions. There, num equals to 1. Since this is in 1, I should render welcome. Let me take that data in the props here. Now, let's try to do that in a first pattern, if else. Since if else is in JavaScript thing, not in JSX part, I can do that by using JavaScript. I should write that one here. If, once again, if my props dot num, if it is equals to the 1, or else you can write just props dot num as well, then return something here. I'm already returning something. Return a division called welcome with an h1 tag. All right. In the else part, return copy this and write this as an login. That means if 1 that is true, then it has to render welcome. If it is 0, it has to render login first, right? To make it more clear, let me write welcome user. Heading back here to see that welcome user. This click me is coming from the before one. Let me try to comment out that part. Yeah, save this. There, welcome user. Let's try to change passing value is a 0. You know, this is one of the way you can pass the props. Depending upon the props, we can decide which component has to be rendered. Here, I'm just simply rendering the welcome or login. There, you see that it's a login. Now, let's take this to the another level. Usually, we will not render the text here. We'll try to render the components. Let me try to write the components here. Um, in the same file, let me try to write one more components here. Create one more component called function. Um, Let me call that as an welcome component, right? So return whatever I have here. Let me copy that, paste it over here. Since I'm just exporting the CR as a default, let me export this as an so that I can use it anywhere. Export. Copy this again. This time, let me call this as an login component. Copy this part, paste it over here. Now, this is an true representation of rendering the different components. So let me remove this part like as an HTML element. I do not want to render an element. I would like to render a component. So let me call upon welcome, which is in the same file actually, right? Here, let me render login component. I need not import it, please, because it is in the same file. Let's look into that. You see that it's an login again, all right? So let us change the prop value now to the 1. It is welcome user. This is one of the way, please. The second pattern would be using ternary operator. Let me try to comment out this part, this complete part, and let me use a ternary operation. So return something, return props dot num. If it is equals to the 1, then render welcome component, otherwise render login component. Let's try to run this part. It's our prop value is the 1. It should render welcome. There. Let me change my prop value to n 0. There. This is the second pattern, please. Now, let's try to look into the third pattern, that is using logical AND operator. Let me try to write um, another one by using something like class component way. I would like to show you that class CR, right? JS. By using the state, I would like to show you this up, right? So let's try to write. Basically, it's in class here. Class CR extends React dot component. Just try to import it. Right. Do not forget to import it, please. Let me try to import React from React. There we will have the constructor which has an props, which takes super props. Now let me have a state this time. This dot state, let me have like is logged in, is logged in. Initially it is in false. Depending on this state, we need to render the component. To keep it simple, this is how, please. Now Let me try to have a render one, render and return. I would like to return what is going wrong, or render is a function actually. Seems to be correct. No, 1 second. I have two things. Render is a function within this return, right? Be careful with class components. Let me have a division. Within this, let me have a two buttons. One for clicking like login, one for clicking for logout. Button on click equals this dot. Um, Let me have to write a handler for this handle login. We need to write for this handle login, right? So let me have the name for it as in login. Copy this part, do one more button, logout. This is logout, right? Um, this is handle logout. Let's write the handler, handle login. This dot state, set state, set state with an depending upon is logged in, is login. If it is and click on the login button, then make that as in true. Otherwise, that would be the false. So initially, it is starting with an false. Initial value is in false. One more time. This is for logout. If the user clicks on the logout button, then make that as in false. Seems to be correct, right? Now the part is we need to bind this one. Do not forget to bind this part, please. This dot handle login equals this dot handle login dot bind function within this keyword. Apply this for logout as well. There, let me call this as in logout. Right? Binding is very important. Seems to be good. I would like to render that what it is been rendering. For example, let me have another something like is it logged in or not kind of a thing. So let me create a component called user component. So within the same class, let me try to write a component called let me write this time as a functional component const user greeting something equals some arrow function, right? So this would take the props is logged in, right? Depending upon this true or false, I need to return the content. Return. So is logged in ternary operator. Just call welcome or else h1 tag with an welcome back or welcome user. Else colon part, then h1 please sign up or please log in, right? I hope this makes sense, everybody. Now let's call upon this component. Mm, user greeting, user oh, this is greeting, user greeting right? We need to pass this value, right? So let me pass that as a props here. Is logged in equals is logged in. Oh, it comes for the two times. Is logged in. So depending upon the state value here, either it is in false, initially it is in false. When the user clicks on the login button, we made that as that to be the true. Then the user clicks on the logout button, we made that as in false. Depending upon the state of is logged in variable, this welcome user or please log in should come up. So me go back to the app.js. Let me comment out this first one. Let me call this class here. I think I did not exported it. Let me export that part. Export default class here. There. So that it is visible here. Class here. There. So let me go back here. Is logged in is not defined. Line 24. Yes, I see that. Is logged in. What is the value of it? Yes, I cannot access this as a director is logged in because this is not a prop here. It is a part of a state. So first let us try to destructure that part. So is logged in there is coming from the state. So let's try to put that into the is logged in. Like const is destructuring is logged in. This should fix our issue. Should be fine. There you go. Now let me, you see this? By default, it isn't false. It is asking us to please log in. So if I click on login, yes, welcome user. If I click on logout, this make our state is logged into and false. Again, coming back to the please log in. I hope this made sense, everybody. So this is how please. Conditional statements or conditional rendering is very important to decide what components has to be rendered at what situations. See you in the next